Joe,
Yeah.
welcome to the High Caliber Man podcast.
Yeah.
For anyone who's been following,
you.
it's a little bit of a different setting, but what will maybe lack in a little bit of audio and or sound quality will make up for in views and information from yourself.
Yeah.
So, as always, a quick intro to why I've invited you onto the podcast and why I regard you to be a high caliber man, which we've only known each other for, what, it won't even be a month really. I met you once, but spent this weekend together at the men's gather up at Featherknot at Piker, plug. So after this weekend, and even when I first met you, I realised you're a little different to most people in society. Your journey, from what little I know, is quite fascinating to me, and no doubt fascinating to other people, but I can almost already imagine it's going to be quite inspirational. So, also, as always, I want to dive right into the deep end. Now, you've got some scars on your body, which people probably won't be able to see right now, but we'll maybe show them once we've talked about it, if you don't mind. And them scars, when I first seen them, they were quite eye-opening. I actually thought they were maybe like someone had been stumping cigars out on your chest and your back. But if you don't mind, would you like to explain how you come to get those scars?
About 10 years ago, I was traveling in Central America and on a bit of a journey, internal journey, you know. Done quite a lot in life previous to that, which had been a lot around the kind of enjoyment, you know, finding meaning, purpose and worth within quite short-term gratification, you know, activities. So I'd gone away with that intention to work on myself. I started to be involved in meditation, finding that peace from within, and it was feeling like I needed to give more to that space. So I went traveling on my own, went to learn some Spanish in Guatemala, got into yoga, meditation, quite a regular capacity. So a lot of hitchhiking, moving around, traveling.
Class.
Bit of a shoestring budget, you know. And it led me to some nice places. It felt like I was being guided in a way, as much as making my own decisions. I was quite free at the time, still am. And after about a year and a half in Central America, I did a lot about permaculture, working on the land. I felt, okay, so for me to be sustainable, it means working on the land, you know. So I started off with that, quite an intense internship, 6 months in Costa Rica. But it felt like there was something missing from all this, you know. It was like a deeper understanding of who I am, what I should be doing. And I ended up sailing down to Colombia with the intention to continue the journey, exploring the inner world. And as soon as I got to there, I came on the west coast, on the Pacific, sailed down from Panama and ended up there, and was invited straight away to somebody's land to cultivate a hostel, working on the land, doing this kind of stuff, which I've got experience with that, so I got stuck in. And then after a couple of weeks there, he says to me, you know, I've just done this ceremony and I feel it might resonate with you. So I said, okay, let's feel into it. And also you can work on the land. And I thought, okay, I'll work on the land. And it was an invitation to an ayahuasca ceremony, which I'd heard about ayahuasca and I'd been aware of it for some time. But I felt it's one of them things for me that until it comes, that's the time, you know. So I took him up on the offer and turned up, and I thought, you know what, to do this, I'm going to give it 2 weeks of deep dieting and make sure I'm ready. And then that night there was a few people there in the Maloca smoking tobacco. It was dark and banana trees around. A nice setting. And something happened in that night when I felt, okay, tonight's the night. You know, I'm going to go for it. It feels like this is alignment. So I wrote down some words that I was feeling and went into the ceremony in the Maloca and sat there and, you know, got in front of the fire and drank the medicine, ayahuasca, and from that moment I went back to the place, sat there, and something happened, a journey which is difficult to explain, but at the end of it, the conclusion up to this point is that It allowed me to experience a possibility beyond death, that the life and death is just it's a moment, like a breath, nothing to hold on to, something to embrace, and wanting to embrace. So presently it feels like it never ends. So there's something in the center of all of the chaos and all of the activities and movement around, that is something that's continuous. And I felt that experience, like through this journey. It was, couldn't picture any of my family. I questioned myself, am I dead? Yes. Okay, so what now? And it just felt peace, felt like everything was okay. And from that, the next day I was invited to a Sundance ceremony. Some good people, and probably could see that I was quite dedicated in my own way, and that I was maybe calling in community, spirituality, healing, purification, and new experience, adventure. So asking anything, I was invited by a close, who's come to be a close brother over recent years. We've Sundance together, and so I took him up on the offer and went down there to the Sundance in Colombia. This is an ancient ceremony of the Lakota people. It comes from the plains, South Dakota, and it's called the Chihuacan ceremony, sacred tree. And this ceremony is it comes from the Lakota people, and they work with this energy of the Chihuacan to really harness that energy within a tribe. And back in the day, it was just for men. It was just for men. It was seen that the women, they had their natural ceremony of bleeding, and that they bleed, they offered this blood to the earth, and there would be teepees there for the women in these times, to go for them 4 days, to sit with the grandmas, to sit with the elders, and to share and converse and to learn how to acknowledge this ceremony. And they talk about this ceremony of the woman, this moon time. This is the strongest medicine of all of humanity. So the men also, if you to observe, like the organs, sexual organs, women are internal, men's is external.
Mm.
And in this life, it feels like the masculine, the men, a lot of their actions is external. Find something external. And a big part of our human history is, which is his story. If it was her story, then it might be a bit different, and maybe we'll one day be listening to that. So for now, I see that men have want to draw blood. Men want to draw blood, and I've had that experience myself. Willing to allow yourself to bleed, put yourself in situations where you go into a fight, or you don't want to put up with anything any longer, so you stand up there. And this is on a very microcosmic social system, one-on-one fights. But on a broader perspective, our peoples have been put to war for a long time, from the ideas, opinions, and perspectives of singular men or singular groups of people. And there's been a lot of bloodshed. And what's the offering of this blood? As a man, when we offer something to the ground, what's the intent of that? So a lot of the intent is to kill, and to destroy. And when I come across this Sundance ceremony, Chihuacan, in Colombia, it was the first time I was there, and I met some people from England as well, some elders from England, a man and a woman, who walked together on this path for a long time. And I shared with them, and they explained to me about it in English, which was good, because sometimes in Spanish I couldn't understand everything. And there was all kinds of people turning up, small people like this in white attire, and there seemed to be a congregation of many people of the Americas conjoining in this place. And then through the time, there's a big maloca where the indigenous people of South America, they would go and sit there, share the medicine, and cook the ambil, the tobacco. And the women and the men, they would sleep behind, and they'd be up all night singing and dancing. And in these times, this is where a lot of the wisdom is shared. This is a collective way of connecting and retracing the past, the stories, the medicines, and then bringing it together to see where to go now. So there was elders came from the north, and elders come from the south, from all the tribes, the Witoto, the Kogi, the Tabuhu, Mari Masa, many different people, Quechua, people from Peru, the Andes, and then from the north as well, the Lakota people. And there wasn't many white people, Europeans, but there was a handful, you know. And for me, it was new anyway. So when I seen this happening, this Sundance, I presented myself to the full expression of this in service for me. So it kicks off really with sweat lodges, you know. This is the purification stage of the sweat lodge.
For anyone who doesn't know what a sweat lodge is, can you just explain what one of those is and how it works?
Yeah, sweat lodge is like a dome made of willow, usually, or straight trees and branches. And once you build this in a specific way, you cover it traditionally with buffalo skins, buffalo hides. Nowadays we're using tarps, blankets, you know. And we warm the stones up on the fire inside, the fire outside of this lodge. And once the stones are warm, we bring them in and pour water on them, sing songs. This is the anipi. This is the ancient Lakota traditional way of sweating, of purification ceremony. And this was a big one for the men as well, you know, like the women had this every month, the men would go off and do this. Now times have changed and, you know, women want to do what men are doing and men want to do what women are doing. So there's a collaboration now. And now women are coming in the sweats, women are sun dancing. And it starts with 4 days of this purification. That was a brief explanation of the sweat lodge.
How hot do the sweat lodges go? Because I'm thinking, obviously, most people watching will be related to a sauna. Like a sauna goes, is it 120 degrees, something like that? What's do the sweat lodges go? Do you know? It's like a lot higher, I think, isn't it?
Just enough.
Just enough.
Just hot enough, usually. Yeah, that's the idea anyway. I mean, everyone has different experiences of this, you know. And a big part of it is that rather than to fight, to surrender to that, you know, to release the tension and embrace it, to clean ourselves, purify ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So, you know, it starts off with 4 days of this for everybody involved. And then the Sundance itself kicks off with the tree day, to go and find a tree that's been prayed on for the last year. You know, people go there and make offerings and prayers, and then we all go together as a tribe. You know, it could be 100. The first year was, you know, probably quite small, maximum 100. The next year it grew.
Quite small, 100.
Yeah.
That seems a lot of people to me.
Yeah, including supporters, you know what I mean? Including family, people who've come.
Yeah, cool.
So
it's not just the people that are actually actively taking part, it's family as well.
Well, there's many sections of this what needs a lot of attention. The cedar women to go and collect the cedar and break it off. Because every time we're burning cedar, you know, the women in the circle and the firemen collecting all the wood, collecting the stones, you know, preparing the wood beforehand. Many parts to play. So in a way, everyone's involved. From my own experience of this is that no matter where you are, you're involved in that, you know. And there might be people dancing in the middle, but everyone on the outside has a part to play in it. So, you know, this is where I ended up, and it wasn't something I knew anything about. And they call it the Red Road, the Chankuluta. Talk about the way of the spiritual path, that it doesn't need to be narrow, it can be, you know, it can be wide and inclusive. So, you know, this is, for me, how I came to the Sundance. And then after this year of seeing it and witnessing it, and then during there's 4 days after the tree day to go and cut the tree with an axe 4 times. All the men dancing would cut the tree 4 times, and then there'd be a couple of ropes, and together as it comes down, we catch it on the shoulders and carry it back. All the people in the community carry it back, and we rebury it in the center. And this is with offerings from the women of the south, with corn, flowers, and mambe, coca, ambil, tobacco. And then once that's in, we bring the tree into the hole without it touching the floor. Pull it up with strings. So each sun dancer has to put a rope while the tree is flat like this onto the tree. And with this is the umbilical cord. This is the connection with the tree. And once that's done, we use these to help pull it up. And as it's straight, we move around, keep it straight, and then put some big stones, put some soil in, and tamp it down. The following day starts with a sweat lodge, about 4 o'clock in the morning. This is the first day of dance. This begins with a sweat lodge and people in attire, red skirts, the men. Women can be in dresses, long dresses. We've got sage around our head and our wrists and our ankles and 2 feathers here. And all of these have certain energetical purposes of connection, really. It's a ceremony of praying for the people, the Chiwakan. So before sun dancing, it comes back to the Hamblecha Yapi, the vision quest, crying for a vision. And we'll tap into that a bit later.
Mm-hmm.
So after the sweat lodge, we get ready in our attire, our feathers, chanupas, the pipes. And the drum, big drum like this, 10, 12 men around and the women around supporting, starts the drum. Every man with a stick, big drum like this. Boom, boom, boom. We go around the arena with the tree in the middle. 404 prayers of sticks around it, and each one is each door of the north, east, southwest has a door, where see the women are. And we go into the arena, and that's the first day of dance. It's the first day of fast. So the sun dance is 4 days, 4 nights, no food or water. And you're dancing in the sun through the day. You start the day with a sweat lodge, about 4 in the morning. And then you move into dance. There's breaks throughout the day at certain times. And then to rest, usually stay outside. We've got teepees up as well if you need to take some shade, And then, we dance. We dance through the day, and then on the night another sweat lodge where the sun goes down. So this prayer, how I see it, is a prayer for the people, prayer for the sun, to recognize who we are and what we're doing. So during that time, we dance in specific songs are being played to encourage certain energy and healing. And the different days also have different aspects of this. So the days are recognized as the directions as well, and elements and certain human experiences, it's to deepen this. And what we're doing here on a microcosmic level is happening macrocosmic. And if we see us as the micro, then there's an even more microcosmic experience inside us, So it's almost like a reflection to how these people perceive their existence, with rising with the sun, setting with the sun, to sweat, and to not necessarily to suffer, but to experience the suffering so that we can transcend that suffering into our power. So pain can become something extraordinary, So this is 4 days, 4 nights, and this continues. And then during this time of sun dancing, the sun dances offer flesh to the tree, to the ground. And with that offering, it's a prayer, an individual prayer perhaps, or, a universal one. So during these times, this is when we get the rope, and we bring the rope, and we've created these 2 pieces of wood that we've cut and sandpapered well. When the time comes to make 2 cuts here, sticks go in, and then with the rope we attach another one, which can hook on nicely from either end, and we're attached to the tree then by the flesh. So with this happening, we go to our place, and the people who are coming to support us are there around us. And then we move to the tree, move back, and when the time happens, where the time comes, the rope breaks from the skin. This is the offering. In the tradition, they talk, the elders, when I sat there, they talk about the flesh is all we have to give. This is all we've come here with. You know, we were born naked, and if we have a good life, we'll die naked as well. And during that experience is, what do we have to offer? We can take this and then give it to somebody else, but that's how they see it, the truest offerings, you know. So this is what happens. And then to cut this off at the end of it and put it at the bottom of the tree, wrap it up in red material and put it in the bottom of the tree. This is one way of making your offering. There's many other offerings as well. Sometimes there's buffalo offerings where you pull 7 buffalo skulls around the circle on the outside 4 times. And that's on the back. That's offerings from the back. And each time, you know, they come in cycles of 4. They talk about the medicine wheel comes in cycles of 4. And, you know, the first 4 years, usually it's good to just, you know, be there in the line and do the work that you feel, you know, to get to understand how the energy moves, how it works. And this is how it worked for me anyway. 4 years of that, and then 4 years of buffalo, and that's where I'm at now. You know, I've completed the last 4 years of buffalo. And the buffalo, it's a big prayer for moving forward with a herd, with the people, you know. Oyate is nation, and Tatanka is buffalo. So they talk about the Tatanka Oyate, and this is the buffalo nation. And the buffalo has a big part to play in it with the Lakota people, as they lived off the buffalo, you know. They worked with the buffalo skins to supply shelter, to supply hunting, to supply warmth, to supply food. The buffalo was seen as a sacred animal. And so they obviously observed buffalo for a long time, and the buffalo, they travel in a herd, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it felt quite natural to step into that prayer, as here in England, a big part of this visions that have come through, and the prayer for me is that we connect on this land of England. We connect with the people of this land, you know, through indigenous principles which have been shared through my experiences there, but then coming back here feeling like it's devoid, feeling like there's no one to go to share these experiences. And for many years, the Sundance was all that I had to really feel like I could tap into that space, which was me being myself.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, to answer the question, is where the scars come from. These are offerings, and the sacred scars, you know, in a way, it's not to show them off, and you know, the way that you've seen them is through the times we've spent, you know what I mean, on this land. So I'm grateful for all them times.
Mm-hmm.
And to go into it, you know, the Hambleche Yapi, the Vision Quest, is translation, but it doesn't quite tap into the true essence of it. You know, to quest for a vision, it's not a quest, it's to, in a way, they call it crying for a vision, is a better interpretation. To go 4 days on your own into the mountain. And this is the 7 ceremonies of the Lakota people, which was brought to them by the white buffalo woman many years ago. And one of them is the Chiwakan Sundan ceremony, and there's certain ceremonies for women coming of age, certain ceremonies to, when somebody dies, to look over their spirit for another year, you know, rather than just the dead. Okay, move them on, let's try and get on with it. But it's recognition of all these shifts of energy, you know, to bring amplification to them shifts, to go deeper into them. And the Hambleche Yapi is the one for me, after experiencing the Sundance, to be a part of it through service. After that, I spoke to some of the elders there in that space, and in a way I feel like they took me under the wing. They invited me to certain ceremonies and connections, which I'm grateful for. So after the Sundance, I was invited to a Yopo ceremony with an old grandfather from Venezuela. Yopo is an ancient medicine of South America, and it's from a tree, a seed from a tree. And this grandfather was with the grandmother. They were connected, and they were over 120 years old, really small, big nose, big ears. And in this preparation, the women would be chewing. They would chew this seed and activate it, and with their prayers, and then, you know, dry it out. The men would prepare it as well. And this is something you sniff up your nose, and you sit there in darkness, usually with a small fire. And this is also one of the strong medicines of South America, the Tubuhu Maria Masa, they talk about the canoe of knowledge and the layers of these canoes and the capacity to make change through our experience. And these were recognized. And at the top of that the queen of knowledge is the yopa, ayahuasca, and cannabis, and also known as Jemoru, the cannabis. Moru is tobacco, and J is a warrior. So quite soon after this, coming into Colombia, it started to move quite fast. But also it seemed to be at a steady pace, like within a few weeks, this was one thing after the other. And also, like after that, I was invited to a peyote ceremony in the teepee with a roadman there. And then also moving into the mountains, we were traveling and meeting the mushrooms, the golden teachers up there. And so straight away, within like a few weeks, within a month, all this was happening in Colombia. And before that, I was never really involved in psychedelics or anything that could really shift the consciousness. For me, that was something to protect.
Yeah.
Something that was mine, what I had.
Yeah.
And to go beyond that is something that I wasn't ready for before. It brought me, it never came. I never even felt like I really wanted to. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was avoiding it or I was afraid of it. It just felt it's not right for me, this, And it felt like when all this was happening, that this is the way of doing these kind of, this is the way of receiving this medicine and being able to offer yourself to this and see what that is between the human and plant nation, what is that can be shared. And it felt like a big part of it was circles, fire, wisdom keepers, medicine men and women, people who have walked this path for a long time, who were probably in a good position to look after the newcomers, being myself, and probably a better idea of what's needed, and I feel on an energetical level they supported that on a deep level. So this was all kicking off, and then it got to the following month and there was another vision quest, Hambleche Yapi, and it was with a good man who I felt connected with, and I went to that and offered tobacco and asked to take part, to go up to the mountain for them 4 days, no food or water. I felt like I had a calling to do that. And the calling came from, well, that sounds a bit mad. And anytime that sounds a bit mad to me, I usually go for it,
Yeah.
But also there was this essence of, it feels mad or it feels different because that's who I feel I am, That's what it seems to be resonating with me, these things that have happened in life and past life. It feels like it's usually quite extreme situations where anything happens, and if they don't occur in a good way or a held way, it feels like they can be exploding off, like burn everything around or get yourself in situations that you don't want to be in. But through all these situations, it feels like something changes. But I'd had enough of that in the past to understand that when something was happening in a good way with good people, that to take take advantage of that and get involved and see what I can do. So this is for 4 years usually. The commitment is for 4 years. So you go the first year, and again the medicine wheel and this way of life and the directions. So the Hambleche Yapi, this kicks off with usually a sweat lodge of two doors, and then up to the mountain, 4 days, 4 nights, and then back down from the mountain. After that, people come and get you, take them back, and you can take what you like up there. You can take a shelter if you like, or you can just go with what you've got. And
Wow.
So I went back 4 years, did that, and then the Sundance again. Like I say, felt like some elders in that space, a bit older than me. The layers of wisdom, and they had me under their arm a little bit, so they took me with them to see the chief at times, offered tobacco, and kind of said, he's all right. So I felt I was all right. So things started to move quite fast with regards to, the continuation of this. Even after this, coming back to England, it's quite strong when your consciousness has been shifted to such a degree, and everything seems a bit different, and everything seems connected. it's then the whole journey begins of, well, what is me and what isn't, you know. When the heart's wide open, how to live in that open-heartedness, but also to be a caretaker of the energy which can't be continuously recharged, you know. So this was then the real journey. They talk about all these ceremonies, these are the easy things, you know. After, when it really begins is when that's over and you're on your own, because that's when you've got to put it into practice, you know.
Well, you're talking there, and there's only so many different directions we could take the conversation. So many questions that were popping into my mind. I think one thing I'd like you to do, if possible, is go back to the time of you're about to set off on up the mountain, 4 days, 4 nights of no food, no water. Most people, they can't go 4 hours without food and water, never mind 4 days. So if you can go back to that time, what's the thoughts that are going through your mind? What are you thinking? Is there any thoughts of, what the hell am I doing? Did you want to pull out? Are you anxious? Are you apprehensive? And then during the 4 days, did you want to quit? You know, was it difficult? Was it fine? Did you feel so supported? Like, what was Joe like in that moment?
All that talk of water, well, you can't have a bit here as soon as I can.
We'll just take this opportunity to check the mics are still working.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, there's an ancient prophecy which the people of the Americas, they've been talking about in front of fires for a long time, and this is of the condor eagle prophecy.
Condor eagle.
Condor eagle, the condor of the south and the eagle of the north. And when these birds fly together, this will be the seed of unification for humanity. And through this seed, well nurtured, will expand throughout the world. And each tradition, each part of the world may see themselves as that center. And I feel that's a big part of it, that is how it is. And the rainbow prophecy is an ancient prophecy people talk about, where all the people of color, all the colors unite. You know, everyone's unified through
There's no
that.
difference.
So the reason I bring that up, because the way that I came across these ceremonies, they come from the north, but they ended up in the south. And this, you know, and from the south, with the plant medicines, they're also traveling now, you know, and the ancient ceremonies and wisdom is being transferred and recognized by elders and making decisions. Also, it's filtering out to others who are maybe not so collectively invested in the true sharing of this, you know, and that happens anyway. But I've had a great opportunity to be, how I feel, to be receiving these from people who've walked the path, you know. And during the Hamblechiapi in Colombia, this is also a slight shift in the traditional way of Lakota. This is the reason I bring up this prophecy, because this is how it maneuvers at times. And to begin the vision quest, this particular one that I took part in, it begins with an ayahuasca ceremony the night before. So
This is after the sweat lodge.
This is before. So it starts through the night with an ayahuasca ceremony. And during the ceremony we offer tobacco, and we sit there in this space till the following morning. And then this is when we have some fruit, little breakfast, a little bit of rest, then the sweat lodge. And when we go in the sweat lodge, this is when, after this, no eye contact, there's no connection with people after that. So the preparation for the Hamblechiapi is to make 405 prayer ties, 101 red, 101 white, 101 yellow, 101 black. This represents 101 prayers for each direction. And with these prayers, we prepare them through the year before with tobacco in a small square, wrap them up, and with red string, make a loop and put them in. It's not a knot, it's a loop. And this red string represents your life. So these prayers we're putting into our life. And when we take these prayers down with us to the mountain, we or up to the mountain, depending where we're going. We put them around us, maybe about twice as big as this rug, about the space. And we've got 7 sticks, which are the 7 prayers for the 7 directions: north, east, south, west, the sky, the earth, and the heart. So we take these, put 4 directions, and wrap the prayer ties around. This is our container, energetical container. You know, tobacco has been worked with for thousands of years throughout the people of Americas from north to south. So it's seen as a, you know, a protector. It's seen as a grandfather energy, the tobacco. So we work with this anyway. So when we go after the sweat lodge, we get our prayers, we take everything we need down, and then that begins it. For me, when this is happening, I feel ready for it every time. There's something in that just feels like this is where I'm meant to be. This is where I'm meant to be. This is what I'm meant to be doing. So, I mean, at the beginning, I went through, you know, I'm going to go for power at this, you know, like, make it as hard as possible, you know.
Because before this, if you don't mind me jumping in, like, you're just a normal fella, right? Not that you're not normal now, but you're just, for people watching, just like a normal lad from England that's travelled over there, right?
I'd say that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, from East Yorkshire. Grew up there, born there, spent majority of my life there. 16, I said to Mum, I'm going to go travelling. She said, no, you know, friends are all older than you. You can, you know, I says, oh, I am, took the passport and went. So it was a bit like that. And then after that, something's happened and it's like, maybe I should have listened to my mum, you know.
We'll get into that a little bit maybe later, but yeah, sorry, I jumped in then.
Yeah, so this ambulatory, it's like this, and I went down without really taking much for shelter or comfort, you know, feeling right, going to go raw with this. And that was my mentality at the time, and I'm grateful that I went through that. And also after a few years, I started to feel, you know, you don't have to put yourself through more suffering than that's already happening, you know. Just that itself, 4 days no food or water, is enough to really change things, you know. You don't have to make it harder. And sometimes when you're cold and wet and all you can think about is getting warm then, but when you're warm and you can sit there, sometimes you can even, you know, harness that energy even more, you know, to just sit there and to make your prayers. And this ambleche, it's a way that came to the Lakota people from the White Buffalo woman, about 12, 13-year-old, when young boys started to become men. This would be the direction, you know, go up on the hill for 4 years doing this. And this was a way of connecting with the ancestors, connecting with their lineage of spirit, and connecting with themselves and an inner knowing of what their vision is here on this plane. So these people this was the reason. And for me, I already had vision quests in my life, looking back, and I feel this is perhaps what led me to this, you know, to take it more into a ceremonial way. You know, through life, you know, certain things happen, and each one of us have our own stories of that. This ambleche, when I'm out there in the mountain, it's a quiet place. It's a time of not eating or drinking. So that consumption, that consuming attitude starts to dissolve. And then after a day or two or however long, you know, well, the first night dreaming of food, and then the next night maybe dreaming of juice or something. Everyone's different, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But in these moments, sometimes certain possibilities can occur, and it feels like a bridge can be made between how we perceive ourselves and what we truly are. To sit there without consuming and just to feel, to connect, to sit down on a blanket on the earth and to sleep on the ground. Somehow it feels being held, but also there's a part that's rising as well, and it feels like an expansion of the life. So it's a good time to pray and to sit there, and if you know, sometimes you get a vision, and for me, the vision was to, as well as, you know, the big vision was the unification of humanity, the unification of me with my past and present and future, with my family. I felt for me to be at peace, means to be peace with my sisters, with my father, with my mother, with friends, with the community. So I came back here, and that was the vision, you know, one day to be here and sharing in circle, sharing in a good way, you know, what I experienced there. And then on the last day, on the fourth day, before the final night, you know, the chief of the Vision Quest of the Ambleche comes down and offers ayahuasca, wachuma, and rapé. And so after them days of fasting, you know, you can receive the medicine and then sit with yourself. And when the time's right, you know, just before the sun goes down or something like that, good time to drink it, you know, and that in a way amplifies the experience. And for me, some of the moments are the ones that have been impressionable, releasing for me, and to be well prepared to come back to the land, to the people. It's quite refreshing, really, and I feel it's quite natural. Because the 4 days of fasting is in all traditions, you know, the people of India, of all religions, even and cultures, there is usually 4 days of fasting. Maybe not religions, beyond religions, you know, cultures, peoples. And even on this land, you know, when the woman had the first moon, she would go with herself to the forest and have dreams and visions of how she would move forward in her life, and then go back to the women after this, the elders, the grandmothers in the grandmother's house, and the grandmas, they would translate this experience to support the next steps for this young girl who would then become a woman, with regards to being a dreamer, being a visionary, being a gatherer. What were the qualities? What's the purpose? How can we best serve the whole? And the same as men, you know, there would be certain ways. If you were a warrior, you would go to specific training to be a warrior. If you were a blacksmith, there would be specific training, and all of these would usually come from these 4 days, and men would as well, you know, for these dreams. And with these dreams, they would come back and share them with the elders, and the elders would be able to, through the wisdom, be able to offer guidance. You know what I mean? So this got lost in our traditions, in our way of life. You know, we, as men from this land, you know, we grow up quite fast in many aspects that are new without good teachers, but also we grow very slow in others, you know, with our capacity to engage on a heartfelt level. Seems quite far out for the way that I came across. But I had good people around me, a good family, a big family of love and support, you know, and so I was somehow being blessed in this life. And I feel when we're born with a spark, and this spark is what we've got, you know, and we can take things from outside and bring them to that spark and light the fire, you know. And as a young man and getting into, you know, born where I was born, it was easy to go out at a young age, you know, 13, 14, and you're hanging around with people older. And, you know, fighting is a culture in our people, you know, and I think there's a time and a place for that. But the way that we've been kind of ushered into, it's, you know, to fight on the streets, you know, to fight. Yeah, so I got into that a little bit, and through boxing, this allowed me to really connect with discipline. You know, discipline with this, to be aware of what it is to fight truly and honestly. You know, when you're just two people in that ring, there's only, you know, the training that you've done to take you there, that's what you've got. You can't then go out and take a break and come back. So for me, that was a good reflection as well, to be like, okay, what you put in is what you've got in that moment, in that present moment, you know. So there's certain disciplines throughout the life that helped me to be prepared, I'd say, for this spiritual journey.
Cool.
Energetical journey, you know, whatever it is.
And what is your interpretation of discipline?
Discipline.
What does that mean to you?
To feel, really, to feel what it is that's needed in that moment, rather than what you want, you know, rather than what people around you want or want you to be or want you to feel. It comes from a need. And when your perspective has been, broadened, not just in physical, how do I look, how do I appear, how can I move, to an emotional aspect as well. How can I feel? How can I cry? How can I release emotion? Then to the mental, how can I deal with these thoughts that feel like I can never get rid of them, and they're here with me, destroying me, and I'm feeling this and that. And then to move into the spiritual level of, well, everything's connected, everything's as a whole. And so through these experiences, the discipline comes from what is the source of all of this? What is the core? Where does that energy come from? And how does it affect you? Because it seems like there is a source and everything from that ripples. So if you start discipline from here and move it in, it can lead you there. And I feel like physical discipline is a good one to start with, which is what happened with me with boxing, And then throughout the time, I can see how certain disciplines change through emotional, mental, and spiritual. I would say disciplines of ceremony, disciplines of sitting in one place, to acknowledge that energy rising up through the spine can occur in a good way like this, rather than lying down or laying down. And discipline can have many aspects. And although discipline, the times you don't offer yourself discipline, they're the best teachers as well at times, when you see people without discipline, and you can think, actually, I see that in myself and I don't want to continue that. So discipline is something that comes from a knowing that's always there, that resonates with the physical, emotional, mental, and the spiritual aspect of our human experience. And it's not always in alignment. Sometimes it might just be like, I'm physically tired, I need to lie down. That's discipline, to listen to your body. And then if you're lying down, then something might come up emotionally and you feel, okay, it's good time to cry now, and mentally, okay, I cleared that, so the discipline can have many, I feel, ways.
Yeah, I like that. That because from what I've heard about discipline and what a lot of people have as their perspective is kind of just doing things you don't want to do. But I like how you're kind of bringing it more internal, and it's almost like if I'm interpreting what you're saying, your discipline is kind of just that knowing, as you say, and it doesn't have to be just doing something you don't want to do, because you're tapping into, I don't know if you want to call it intuition, but kind of that knowing inside rather than what your head tells you maybe should do. You know what I mean? So yeah, I quite like that.
Well, the discipline that I've explained is through my own personal experience. Everyone has their own interpretations, from military or school.
Yeah.
But from me, all the people around me, from school, teachers, all these methods of learning, they never taught me anything about discipline. They tried to project it onto me, but throughout all my education, there was something that didn't feel right with it. And if nobody can offer you discipline, then you have to, if you would like to grow, you have to create your own, and like I said, when I say the spark, it's the discipline needs action as well, so you might have that inner knowing to let's say live from the heart, and then the next step is action, how to act upon this, and I feel, yeah, there's good discipline going on in these ways that I've learned.
Cool. Let's go into the ayahuasca. It's a common, well, I say common, it's starting to become, from what I see, a lot more popular now, especially in the Western world. I'm personally interested because I'm planning on doing it next month. So again, if we can maybe go to the time that you first taken ayahuasca, I think it was the night before the first sweat lodge, was it?
It was the night before being invited to the Sundance.
So you're in the location, you've just drank ayahuasca, you've drank the medicine. What happens from then? What was your experience of it?
Lying down on a mat on my sleeping bag.
What you're feeling, what you're thinking? Are you thinking, try and let me go along that journey with you?
Yeah, it felt like it was where I was meant to be, for starters. To go there, to drink it, to go back to the place. And I sat there for a while and the fire starts to change colour. Things start to move. And then I lied down. And then the next thing that was going on was like a tunnel of colour and happenings just happening around me, and I'm going through it like this. It felt like a long time, and it felt like throughout that time there was certain, I don't know, you could say certain energies around, you know, and these connections with these older black women, and it felt like they were there to guide and support. And at the end of this journey throughout the tunnel, I ended up in a place of white light, pure white light, and everything that I thought I was, I couldn't remember any of that. Who am I? What's my name?
Your view on yourself, you mean?
Yeah, my experience with family, my experience in society. Who am I? Where am I? You know, the times when when we're in new places, okay, where am I? But then there was this started to come through. Who am I? And it wasn't coming back, Joe. It wasn't coming back anything like that. It was just this feeling. And these aren't words I was saying out loud.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
these feelings. It's like a hum, like no words were being spoken. Like, okay, well, I must be dead. Okay, it feels like I'm dead. Okay, how did I die? I can't remember. Okay, well, how am I going to let my family know? Who's your family? You know, I couldn't picture them. And going through this of letting, I suppose it was a kind of letting go in a way, because, you know, you think your family, you care for them, you don't want to just die and them not know where you've died. And all this came to me that maybe I am dead, maybe I'll never be found. And even through all of this going on, it was okay. After all these questions and happenings, it come to a point of, that's okay. It's okay. And then it was peace. Peace, and then almost like as if that happened, as soon as that happened, it started to kind of come back into physical kind of movement. Probably a lot of movement during this time, you know, on the mat, but not moving too far at all. One time, a bit early on, went out for a piss, and, you know, the banana trees coming like this, hitting the ground and coming back up like this, and just like, whoa. But this was a bit before this experience, so that was just tapping into like, okay, and feeling like they were breathing, feeling like these trees and everything was breathing, you know, the grass was moving, and it was like welcoming, saying, hi, brother, you know, like I'm here as well, you know. So it felt like everything was alive and spirited, or at least I was in an experience to experience that spirit. And then when I started to come back around, it was moving, like moving the hands, felt the rustling of the sleeping bag. It was like, okay, I'm somewhere. And then like picking dirt up and started putting dirt in my mouth. Like, what does this? What's this? You know, it was like a baby again.
Wow.
But yeah, but almost like born again, you know, in a way. And not everyone has these experiences. I feel it's very possible, and for me, I felt blessed and gifted and guided that this happened to me in this way. So after coming back round, I went outside for a little bit and just looked at the stars, started to ground that energy down, really.
Class. I want to continue kind of on the path of talking about your experiences with things like ayahuasca, and you mentioned mushrooms and stuff. One question that came to my mind there is, if you were to hesitate a guess, and I know there could be a possibility of a million answers, but if you could hesitate a guess at where would you be now if you didn't go down this route, where do you think that would be?
Could be anywhere, really. Could be financially abundant, could have a house and family, could be dead. Yeah, there's always extremes in the life, you know, so it would be somewhere extreme, an extreme. And I feel like this is what's meant to be. This is where I'm meant to be, you know. I feel it come to a time in my life where, yeah, it needed to happen like that, you know. So I probably wouldn't be anywhere else other than here, really.
Yeah, I kind of guessed you were going to come with that, and as you were even answering that, I was thinking, like, I'm a believer of our path is almost laid out before us, and we have little choices along that path to take slight deviations, but it's already laid out. So I know I asked then what were there's a million possibilities, but at the same time there's probably only ever one possibility, which is here, right?
Yeah.
So you've tried ayahuasca, you've experienced that. You mentioned mushrooms as well. What was your experience with the golden teachers?
I feel like they really enjoyed the interaction in a good way with sound and humans. Feels like it's a real natural, if anything, the most natural way of being being in that different world. You know, the mushrooms, they grow from the ground. They're abundant on our land as well. They're abundant in many lands. I feel like apparently we're more closer to mushrooms than plants. And it's like they're kind as well, you know, it's like joyful beings who are willing to share information and to take care of them in a good way with like good smells, good music, you know, good circle, good fire. I feel like this is through experiences of none of this, also with them. I feel it's a good way, you know, with music, with an opportunity to travel. And you know, there's many elders around the world who also maintain this wisdom with mushrooms. And people are coming forward now with that wisdom. So for me, the mushrooms are probably one of the least kind of ones I've gone with, but they're quite adaptable as well. I feel, you know, sometimes mushrooms can be good for just dancing as well. But this is not my particular strong subject, I would say, of mushrooms. I feel there's a lot of people out there with a lot of information about mushrooms, and who've been walking the path of mushrooms for a long time. I feel like there's a time and a place for them. And you know, for what's happening now with the microdosing, that's big healing. And I feel also with mushrooms, if you collect them yourself, there's something else there as well, in a good way, with intention and circle.
So. Cool. So let's go back to when you were a little bit younger, before all this kind of journey started. You mentioned you're from East Yorkshire, into boxing. Typical normal kid, as you could say, from Yorkshire. You know, what was Joe like as a teenager? You mentioned, no doubt, from what you said in terms of, I'm going to tell my mum to grab my passport and just go. No doubt, a bit extreme, would you say? Is that accurate?
Yeah, kind of uneducational, at least in school. You know, I was good. I could do whatever they were asking me to do with regards to the, you know, the work and that, but I was always questioning everything, really. You know, anytime there was authority placed in a higher place than myself, this was questioned, because it felt like it was coming from someone who didn't understand themselves, you know. So if I could understand that that person understood something about themselves, then I'll maybe take that on. But I wasn't really around that at school, and that I have a good father, and, you know, a big hero in my life. And some of the things we used to do when we were younger kind of led me to experiences that wouldn't have happened for a young man, you know, 8, 9 years old, going swimming in the North Sea, climbing cliffs, going through caves, jumping in, jumping out, you know, motorbiking. And this continued for years, you know. So when it got to, I don't know, 13, started boxing training. About 14, started drinking and stuff like that, you know, with friends, going out, smoking resin and that kind of stuff. Going out with the girls from the school, because I went to school in a different town, so in a way I had the best of both worlds, because I had a good set of group of friends in one town and another in the other, and in between as well, and expanded. So there was a good balance of places to go, things to do. So kind of usually ended up though, you know, having a few drinks, unless I was, you know, boxing training for fights and that, then I wouldn't usually drink, quite disciplined with that. Usually, you know, spending time with the girls and, you know, exploring that avenue as well, you know, relationships sexually, you know, don't always get taught that, do we? So going down that road as well, and that became a big part of my life as well, I feel. But in a good way, because I have sisters, you know what I mean, so I understood how to be around women, you know what I mean, respectful and yeah, and you know, taking care of them as well, you know. So
Yeah, cool. One thing that jumped out at me when I first met you after the first men's gather, you know, you're kind of playing the role of, I don't know whether chief is the right terminology, but that's how I kind of viewed it in terms of that container of the men's gather. You were kind of controlling the vibe of the room and things. Then once it was all finished, you were like, right, it was getting the beers out. And I was like, fucking hell, I didn't expect that. Because probably me stereotypically looking at spiritual people, oh, I don't drink. And they have this little kind of ego on the shoulder that drinking's bad, and I give that up a long time ago. I no longer need that substance. But you were like, right, let's just cracking open the beers. And I was like, that's class. You know what I mean? So you know, very, I don't like the word normal, but I know people interpret that the right way and say just like a fucking normal fella, as well as these extremes. So where does like drinking and kind of what people would call normal activities like drinking fit into your life now?
There's a time and a place for everything, I feel, you know, and for the alcohol, the beer in particular, it's a big part of our society. You know, my family comes from coal mining in northeast in Durham, and you know, they'd be going down the mines 12 hours a day, coming up, and there'd be beers laid on the bar already. Do you know what I mean? They'd all go there, they'd drink. Right, roofer, all right, this is how it was done. You know what I mean? This was the way of communicating to get your jobs done at home. There was people things you couldn't do, you'd ask people around you. And the drinking's a good one for conversing, for being true, for laughing, joking. And then, like anything, there becomes a darker side of it all, you know, when you go deeper into it. And this comes with all things, you know. There's the only difference between medicine and poison is the dosage for us, you know what I mean? So I feel like there's got to be experience in this if you choose to work with anything at all. And for me, beer's been a good one. I've never been a real big drinker, but there's been times, you know what I mean, more like not drinking much and then drink a lot. So as well as running a pub, you know what I mean, with my sister and that, and being around it a lot. My family, after being up in Durham, they moved down to Yorkshire, set up a new life, and they ran pubs, guest houses. So, you know, my family, my lineage has been around alcohol for a long time, and many alcoholics in the family. You say alcoholics, but like drinking all day, but still the same because they've been doing it that long, you know. So some kind of masters in the alcohol, you know, still going there after,
it's one way to look at it.
After 20 pints, still dominoing, you know what I mean, and not changing. And so this is a way of our people, in a way.
I might take that next time I'm pissed and just try to master my drink.
You know, I'm on it as well, to be honest with you. And this time after the men's gather, I didn't feel it. I felt, because I've witnessed a lot happening with drink as well. Drinking the alcohol can bring certain faces through, you know, faces that aren't necessarily true to that person. They're a part of them, maybe, or they're coming through them. You know, the talk of spirits, you know, these spirits, these whiskies, they call them that maybe for a reason, you know, that maybe there's certain things living in them that come through. Everything wants to live, you know, and then it becomes a draw, an addiction, you know. And I've seen things with close family members that, you know, you don't see them anymore in there. So it's like, this is, you know, alcohol is probably one of the biggest, most powerful beverages on the planet at the moment, you know, and not necessarily for constructive or destructive. It just is. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, you know. And you're not getting good beer mainly now. You're getting bottled lager or something like this. And I feel like good beer, you know, a few beers. I feel also in this path of, you know, like being true and being spiritual, or like you said, playing the role of chief. It's not playing anything really. What it is it's just, you know, at least here it's a good way of just sharing But I feel sometimes there does have to be a position where can kind of take care a little bit more of that.
Yeah,
And say, actually, that's not the right time for this, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And once we've done our work and that ceremony's finished, or like that weekend's finished, then as facilitators, you know, people who are coming to give that, I feel like beer is a good way to relax.
Yeah, yeah.
And I also feel a bit different. Like this time I didn't. Then the next day I did, and it was good. It was a good closing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, maybe moving into something like beer circles or mead ceremonies. You know, where you can share in a good way, share their beers and drink in a good way, but you're holding each other. You know, you're not necessarily pint, bar, pint. Just concentrate that energy. I feel there's something there as well.
Yeah, yeah, cool. I like that perspective, honey. Change the subject slightly.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the ego and people trying to kind of get rid of the ego, and how does your ego play a part in your life?
I feel like once you have a center, everything can be a teacher. You know, if you know where your home is, anything other than that is something you can explore. The ego is a word given to an experience, which is usually acknowledged as being destructive or, you know, all encompassing. But I feel it's a good teacher, you know, as long as you don't feel that's all you are. If you think that's all you've got, then yeah, there's issues, because, you know, it's somehow an illusion in a way, because there's somehow a truer core center of that. Well, I feel it's all right. People take care of it. It's like anything, you know, as long as we've got what we've got. I feel like these people talk about ego deaths and all these kind of stuff, and in a way, maybe that happened to me, but then it doesn't mean it's dead forever. Then your work begins, you know what I mean? If you see something differently and everything that you thought you were is then wiped away, that includes the ego, but then it soon comes back. It's not like the work's been done.
Yeah.
That's just saying, you know, we'll lay that down, and now what do you want to grow? So the ego comes back into it, and it's always going to be there, like anything.
Yeah.
So to acknowledge it and see, well, what is the drive there? You know, if that is, why am I doing this? You know, so it's something like that.
Cool. Okay. So we've talked about kind of your younger years, your spiritual journey. Where are you now? What are you doing now? What's Joe like in 2023? What's life look like for you? Obviously, we've met through the men's gather, as we've mentioned. You're on the kind of festival circuit at the moment.
Not particularly. No. A few festivals I go to play music. I like playing music as well, and playing with some close brothers at the minute, and my sisters are playing, and I enjoy it. It's a good time to really like let go, you know, because some of this work is quite strong, quite needs a lot of attention. So the music is a good balance of that, because it can be deep, it can be expressive, it can free flow. It's good meditation, learning the guitar, learning the drums, playing the didgeridoo. So I've found some good medicine in this kind of stuff as well. So if I go to festivals, it's usually to play music, you know. But on another level of, you know, I've been involved with the sweat lodges in England, you know, coming up here in the lakes a few years ago now. And for a long time, you know, I wasn't, at the beginning you want to share everything, but then you realize, well, I'm not ready to share everything, you know. It's just, that was for me.
Yeah.
You realize it's a real internal one. So when it come to me, people asking for this sweat lodge, you know, brothers that felt the medicine in the past, and they were asking me to come and make that ceremony. So started doing that, and these have been going well. This is my invitation up here to the Lake District to come here and make ceremonies, sweat lodge. So put teepees up as well, play music in the teepees, fire, good time. That's a good opportunity for us to open ceremonies of gatherings like this, you know. The men's gather is, to use it for an example, is a kind of blueprint of what we offer and what we can offer as a tribe. They put the big teepee up, put the smaller teepees up, you know, make that big one good with carpets, and so we can go in there and open up the space with regards to recognizing, okay, we're stepping into another energy here. We've just come to this land. Let's ground down. Let's share our names, our intention. So the teepee works as a great temple for that, I feel, and the fire goes the whole time. You know, we're keeping the fire going. So what we're doing up here at the men's gather with the sweat lodge and the teepee and the sound journeys, the didgeridoo, playing the didgeridoo, and you know, playing the didgeridoo on the body can be a high vibe to recalibrate the internal bodies, it seems. But there's some good feedback on that, and it feels good as well. You know, playing the gongs and playing the crystal balls, the people I do this with, so they're good at what they do. It feels like that's moving, and it's not so intense as some of the other ones, you know, like the sweat lodge. So there's some good layers of what we're doing. And you know, this one we're doing archery. You know, some of the elders from this land are coming forward. You know, for me, when we started doing the sweat lodge here, you know, there wasn't so many elders, but we've continued it, and now the elders are coming forward, 70 odd. We've got elders coming from Ireland to see what we're doing. It feels like the prophecy is coming true, and some of these ceremonies are really sacred, you know, and I feel like we've been guided in a good way. The right people are coming and at the right time, and so as well as being up here in the lakes quite a lot, you know, what's been happening here is the community's been growing from these gatherings, you know. See people showing up now to collect stones for the sweat lodge, to collect the wood, you know, because in the past, if you're just doing that yourself, it's a strong work, you know, getting the teepees on and off the van, moving them around the country, putting them up. Now people are coming together and supporting that. It feels a real natural growth from ground level, which I feel like this is what's needed now. You know, we can't listen to what people have to say anymore about what they think this and think that. Let's just get stuck in, you know. And we've got a good relationship up here. You know? There's a lot of men showing up for what we're doing, and it feels tight, and it feels like this is part of the vision. You know, and we do stuff with the women as well, and mix stuff. So really, it's like that. This, I would say, up here is the kind of the center at the moment of these ceremonies that we're doing with the sweat lodge and the men's gatherings. We're also traveling the country at certain times with invitations. If people feel the calling and they invite me, then I feel into that, check out the land, and then go down there and see what the feeling is. You know what I mean?
I'll make sure your contact details are in the description so people can contact you if they feel like what we're talking about is their cup of tea and they want you on their land doing your thing. Like,
and this path, what we're talking about, on another level where I live, I support my sister in running a pub. You know, down to earth pub. My other sister, she's the chef there. She cooks there, vegan food, organic vegan food. We got good beer there, live music a lot.
Class.
Open mic nights, but bringing the community together.
Awesome.
So, you know, putting it in. I work with my mum. Alongside her, set up a health shop, coffee shop, yoga studio in the back that she took on. And so supported her with that. I feel like she really wanted to support me, and I feel like a lot of my family, they feel like now is a good time to kind of understand where I'm coming from. For a long time, it was, what does he even want, you know? Because it's like, you feel like you've received something like a vision, but you know, it's difficult for the family to get involved in that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how have your kind of parents played a part in your journey? Like, I know my journey in the gym, which is not even really much of a journey, I guess, compared to yours, but going even into the gym, I remember my dad said one point when I was going down to Ted's gym, like an old school bodybuilding gym, I remember him specifically saying, "Oh, what do you want to go down the gym for with all them big lads carrying carpets?" And he didn't understand it. He's never been in the gym himself. So I didn't really get too much support initially in what I was doing, and even going down the self-employed journey. My parents were always very worried of where's the next paycheck coming from. It's not like what they've experienced with having a regular wage every 4 weeks, and that safety of, if you're sick, you get sick pay, and or if you're off on holiday, you get holiday pay and stuff like this. With self-employed, obviously you don't get that. So the support through my journeys initially wasn't too supportive until like almost had to then kind of prove them wrong, and then became a sponsored athlete by the world's biggest supplement company, and then I kind of got it and realised, all right, he's actually all right at this thing, like of going to the gym and helping people and coaching people. So then the support came. But what's your parents' role in support? Have they been on the supportive from day one, or have they not played a part? Or
They've played a big part in it all, yeah. So, you know, the mother's love, you know, that nurturing. She's always nurtured me and looked after me and cared for me from that loving mother space, which is away all I needed, you know.
Cool.
And with my dad, the support was there before. Do you know what I mean? He always said, you know, you do anything you want, whenever you want to do it, as long as you're not hurting anyone. You know, so that comes to backfire in a way, doesn't it? Well, it did for him anyway. When you're like, all right, let's put this to the test. Not like that, but you know, you're going away and it's a new experience in a way, that the journey I've been on, and sometimes your family don't get it and they don't get you. You've changed, you know, and you're a psychopath, you're this, you're that. It's some of the things I got, and maybe I was, you know what I mean, but maybe I always have been as well. Maybe I'm just learning how to acknowledge that and transcend that into something constructive, you know.
Yeah.
All these human, you know, there's a lot of labels now for everything, you know, and schizophrenic, you know, manic depressive, you know, all this stuff, and it's worth acknowledging, you know, and it's in all of us, and it's a choice at any time. But through this way, I've understood how to acknowledge that within myself and bring peace to it. So my dad has had a massive input in my life in general, and so has my mum. They're supportive, and they've guided me on my path to do what I want to do. Yeah, biggest teachers in my life, them too.
Class.
I'd say. And now, you know, through hardships of thinking they should be like this, they should be like that, you know, I brought them down as well by saying, you know, why aren't you doing this? You know, that's not good for you. That's not bad. You know, that's bad for you. To now, when families coming in TP, sitting down, coming to festivals where we're playing music, you know, Dad's here now, having this experience. Because we can't do it on our own, you know. We tried to change everything. You know, we change things inside first, that's good, but within, you know, family relationships, I feel like what we're doing now with my family and extended family is new to this land. To acknowledge one another for who they are. You know what I mean? Father-son relationship, to put it on the table and say, you know, you need to sharpen up because that ain't right. You know, being able to speak to your dad like that and him saying it to you, and not say, but no buts anymore. Do you know what I mean? Just, that's it. And you know, this is affecting this, and talking it truly and openly and honestly. And the same with my mum. My mum's a nurse. You know, and her mother was a midwife, and in the Navy in Nigeria, and you know, she's lived as well. And my granddad, or my mum's dad, he was one of the youngest officers in the Navy, because he was an orphan. So as soon as you don't have now, you go in the army or the Navy, you know. So that's all he had, and that's all you've got, you put everything into it. So you know, I've got a background of this kind of. This is my background anyway, on my mum's side, and so I see where my mum comes from, and I see her as a child as well. You know, I see my mum, and I feel her dad, she lost when she was young, and you know, I see myself as that position sometimes. You know, to look at as I'm starting to grow, and the parents are getting older. You see, you know, from a heartfelt position, you see them as a child. You know what I mean? Now I see them as children, as well as adults and everything. You see the side of them that you never saw before, because you needed them. You needed them to be strong. I needed them to be strong so that I could grow. And now I'm in a place where I see more of this child of them coming through, and what they're asking for through their actions, and why they're doing what they're doing, you know. And it's come at a good time, because I'm ready for it as well. You know, before I wasn't mature enough or true enough maybe, and I needed them. You know, once you've got something there, you don't need to change. But when something happens with your family, and you start to see them in a different way, you have to grow quite fast.
Mm.
You know, and sometimes people have that too young and they're not ready for it. But if you can forgive yourself and forgive your family in a good way and talk about it, be able to talk in a circle with the opening of space, you know, we use this aho from Lakota or awen from this land. And this opens up space for people to be able to converse. And it's difficult with family. And I've never used this with family, but I intend to, you know, because it's projecting as well, new ways. But they've been in circles with me when this has happened and they've been involved. So, you know, I feel this is a good one. Take care of yourself and take care of your family. And once that's good, then you can extend the family, you know, by which naturally occurs, this ripple, you know.
Yeah.
Once you take care of yourself, then you can take care of somebody else closer, and then you can extend that, you know. And if everyone has a role within that, with the main one taking care of yourself, making sure I'm healthy and fit and capable, then you can then take care of somebody else. Dad used to say, you know, I used to say to him, "Who's your best friend?" And he'd say, "I'm my own best friend." So yeah, but who's your best friend? I'm my own best friend, you know. And I thought, oh, it's a rubbish answer. But then after time, you think, you know, you're the one who you spend your life with.
Yeah.
You know, in this body, in this mind. And, you know, you might not always be living in that mind and that body. So make use of it. You know, you talk about that ego and that, embrace it. Embrace it all and take it to its, understand the capacity of that energy. And then you can transcend it. Then you can work with it. When you know what a soul is capable of, you can use it. You know, when you know what the mind is capable of, and you can have an interaction with it rather than allowing your whole experience to revolve around that space, and you can work with it, you know. And then we can work with people. So when we say we're doing this, or we go to do the work after this that we've got to do, then everyone has a role in that, you know. And the main thing is that I'm making this, I'm safe, you know. Because if you're not, then someone else has to look after you.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And when I say safe, I mean just prepared, innit?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
We've got good people around us here now, you know, the elders coming forward, 70-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and they want to teach us now. And now we can learn. So this spark, what we're talking about, what we're doing here, it's only a spark, you know. I've just looked over the wall and seen something, and then it's like, okay. And then we're growing together now, you know, and then I feel like as a people, as humans on this planet, we're going to keep rising together. I'm going to see more of what's happening, feel more of ourselves, you know. So
Brilliant.
Yeah, good relationships with family.
Cool. So coming towards the end then, question that I like to ask most people is the biggest challenge you've faced to date in your journey and the lesson you learned from it.
Well, the most prominent one that just comes to mind then is, in this body, the body can't take everything, you know. It will deteriorate, it will break, and it will go back somewhere, you know. And this has happened for me through life, through certain things that have happened. I've, you know, been kicked the fuck on the floor and had arms broken and stuff, and
In fights,
and by a few people, and broken bones, leg, back, bottom of the back. And this, after a while, you start to get to a point now, I'm just like, I want to look after this body, I want to take care of this, you know. And recently my foot, and I feel like, you know, it's worth taking care of this body. If the body's good, then you can walk, you can move, you can be useful in these times now. And from that, you know, I feel you can do anything, you can walk the path you need to walk. So in life, it's just like that. Take care of what you've got, and what you've got is what you've got here, you know what I mean? It's not a lot of money in the bank, it's not a house, it's what you've got when you need it. You know, if we have to go for a walk and, you know, we need to find water, we need shelter. I see things differently now, you know, like the power of living on land, the power of growing your own food, the power of hunting, the power of being open and honest with other people from a heart space. And if it's not, then being able to check one another, like, where's that coming from? You know, and sit down there with the support of brothers and sisters that say, you know, yeah, what is this? You know, this is a big one for me, you know, so it's happening now, I'd say. You know, right now, what we're doing here on this land, this is what's going on, yeah. This is the biggest happening for me in my life right now. All the other stuff is, you know, the experience to have led me here. So I'm grateful for life in a way, you know, real grateful for this life. And one day it's gonna come to an end in this body, you know. So I'm giving it the love it needs and putting it to use, you know, putting these prayers down for this unification of people now. All the colours, all the four corners.
It's an amazing vision. Why do you think so many people don't look after the physical body these days?
They don't know how to, you know, and everything, there's a lot going on now which is trying to instigate that it doesn't really matter, you know, or in the foods and all this kind of stuff. So I feel it's just comfort really, and the education isn't there necessarily on a mainstream media. But also people have to take responsibility for themselves. But you know, this has been years, generations of practice, you know, to where we are now. So I feel like it's a time to transcend that shame, you know, feeling like, oh, it's my fault or it's someone's fault. I feel it's just to, you know, to be able to share the ways of moving on now, you know, to being healthy, you know, to breathe well, to understand how to breathe. You know, a lot of people don't breathe to the diaphragm. How we walk, how we talk, how we eat, when we sleep, how we sleep, you know, all this is, you know, it's different to the natural cycle. So all these ceremonies of the Sundance, the Vision Quest, Cambridge Happy, the Sweat Lodge, you know, even the music, it's an opportunity to just relax and to reevaluate. The Sundance, we dance to the sun, you know. So once we can reconnect as natural beings, as a part of nature on this planet, we're not from the earth, we are the earth. We're walking, you know, we're from here, and we're a part of it. So once we can really truly harness that energy, I feel once we tap into that natural method of life as humans and our role to be here, what we're here to do and to be, then that's when the real work can begin. You know, the life can be enjoyed again. It's all this eating and the addictions and stuff, it's all very minutesome. You know, the experience, you know, the pleasure, it's very minutesome. So it would be a gift for us to understand what it is to be alive now in this time, you know, as humans, and to be able to share openly, and all the information to be open to every person, you know, and to make decisions based on that. To look to the elders, to look to the women, you know, a lot of the great empires and groups and smaller communities and all that. Not necessarily empires, sorry, but you know, the smaller, more indigenous cultures, they are led by women. You know, so I think it's time for the woman now. You know, I sat with elders this year in Colombia, in the Mallorca, and they talk about this time now and to listen to the woman, you know, allow the grandma to do the talking. This is how it used to be on this land, Britannia, you know. This used to be the women, the Celtic women, you know, there used to be spaces here for dreamings. You know, there's islands like Anglesey and, you know, some sacred spaces. We're sitting here now in this stone circle, which has been here for a long time, and it's got a wall right through the middle of it now, you know, because they sold the land half there, and this is what we're dealing with, you know. People have built walls based on an illusion of what they own and who they are and this. So, you know, to take down the walls in a good way, dissolve the boundaries of what we think we are, and move into that place of heart. But it's going to be steady, you know. I don't feel it's like, right, let's get going. And you know, you talk about the ayahuasca. I feel there comes a time for this for people, you know. Sometimes for me, if it was only that one time in life, it would have been enough, although it's continued, and then another journey begins, I feel. And you know, there's people for this, you know. I feel it's good to really feel into it and to be with the right people, you're the right person carrying this medicine, you know, because there's ancient wisdom involved in this, you know, ancient prayers and intentions. So I'd say anyone who's going into this kind of way of life to just be patient as well. Listen to the signs, listen to the subtle energies of life.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that, really, and kind of speaking to other people. And if there's anyone watching who maybe wants to step into this type of journey, or they may be aware that they want to start healing but are unsure how, or they maybe want to start kind of working on themselves but are unsure how, what would you say, what advice would you give them? How would they start?
Just be true to yourself. The instructions are there and they're unique for everyone. You know, be honest to what's coming through. On a practical level, for me, a good one is the breathing. Simple breath works. Learn how to breathe. Cold water. I feel like it's all out there. Get into nature, get your shoes off, take it real steady, because it's not about where you want to be or what the final, you know, what that, you know, you build something up in the show, you build it up, and then boom, it's happened. And then that's it. And then you go home, you know, fireworks, the biggest one, boom. It's not about getting to, you know, set goals, set little goals, little steps, baby steps. It's not about getting anywhere, it's about the journey for me, you know. So just enjoy it, enjoy life. If you're not enjoying it, then ask yourself why. What can I do to change it? What do I enjoy about myself? Who am I? You know, once that can be acknowledged, you know, once the darkness can be acknowledged as, you know, as a part of it all, as well as the light, then, or the yin and the yang, everything, you know, the sky, the ground, you know, it's all dualities in a way. So just acknowledge yourself, who you are. The instructions are there for everyone who wants them, usually in the stillness. So to sit still, even just like this, you know, for 5 minutes a day, close your eyes, breathe in, you know. Breathe into your stomach and just let it out. You know, to go deeper, we're doing work with the sound where we organize a space to be able to sit into that and be guided as well, you know. That's a good one, you know. People are coming now to do yoga meditation with us and just lie down for the sound journeys, for the didgeridoo and that. That's a good one, and it's gradual, you know. I'd say plant medicines is extreme, and to you know, to do it in a good way. These are ancient medicines, you know, and it's all very well moving them around the world and you know, going these different places. But you know, they're powerful beings, you know, the plant nation. They just take care of them, I feel, and you know, in a good way. Because you know, if you do something like this and then you haven't got the support afterwards, or if you're not willing to do the work, and then you have some kind of expanded awareness of something, then it could bring a lot of trouble after, you know what I mean? That you don't understand how to do it, you're not in a good environment, and can lead to many things, you know. You know, so I'd say just take it real steady, take a good walk in the morning, get into the sea, practice your breathing, you know, play some music, even the drums. Just keep it simple, and you know, there's stuff happening now on this land where we're cultivating communities in all four corners of this land intentionally. And it's happening. So
you mentioned stillness, something I'm a massive fan of, and the more I do it, the more I enjoy it, the more I want to do it even more than I already am. And just working with people of all different backgrounds from society these days, I'm very aware that a lot of people don't like even just being with their own thoughts. They don't like to sit still.
Yeah.
ADHD is just absolutely through the roof with technology and social media and mobile phones and notifications and being constantly available at a touch of a button. And not only people's attention is disappearing, but people's awareness is disappearing, people's stillness is disappearing. So one thing I try to do with clients that need it is almost give them a bit of a detox, and it often starts with some silence. And I personally like starting my day with silence. I get me a bit of a routine where I go and get my Greg's flat white, sit down by the sea and just enjoy my coffee, let the caffeine kick in before I hit the gym. But just take that time to just gather my thoughts and be still and start the day with a bit of calm. So how important is stillness in your opinion?
A lot of the gifts that come in life, it's in between all the noise, you know, like even conversations, it's in between the words a lot of the time what's being said, you know. And this life's made up of many actions, you know, we get up, we sleep, to slow that down, to be still, I feel allows a recalibration process, which is quite natural. So for me, it's important to be still. Is that the question?
Yeah. How important kind of is stillness? Because I just think it's so missing, but it's so beneficial.
Yeah.
So beneficial.
Yeah, and extremes, you know, and you know, a few people say, "Oh, just stop, go into meditation." You know, as Westerners, it's difficult that. So stillness is important. So you know, a good way of dealing with this is really move around. You know, do some ecstatic dance. You know, just move around and movement, whatever you feel. But ecstatic's good. You're releasing energy. You're moving, and then the stillness is amplified. This is a good way of you know, sometimes you can sit there in meditation if you just go into it like nothing's happening, you know, like, and there's nothing supposed to happen really, but through that movement and that energy, then to concentrate, you can feel it. So some say, you know, the Westerners need to be shocked into meditation. It's not a natural state. So yeah, shock yourself into meditation, cold water, ecstatic dance, movement, this kind of stuff. Go for a run and then sit in meditation. Go for a swim, then sit in it. And then when you start to feel it, you know, then it's, you know, like you say, you want it more. And you can bring it into, I feel once you get an idea of what stillness is and where the center is, you can start to bring that in. Even though you're moving, doing that, stillness can still be there.
Yeah.
When you're moving, you know, moving things and working.
Yeah.
And that's the next kind of phase of it, I'd say.
Yeah, it's one thing I realised when I started meditating, and I was meditating most mornings quite heavily. I realised after a period of time, I felt like I didn't almost need meditation because I was kind of not in a constant state of meditation or in a constant meditative state, but I could be busy, but still very present.
Yeah.
And I think for me now, that's where I do pride myself on my presence. You know, listen to every word you say, and I'm trying not to get distracted by the bee flying around my head and, you know, whatever it is, I'm trying to really be present. And I think there's a lot of peace in the stillness, peace in the presence, which I think a lot of people are missing these days. And it's leading to distractions and finding pleasure in things like binging on alcohol or food or drugs, porn, gambling and this type of thing. So I think the stillness kind of takes all that away and brings people back to their, we can maybe argue, natural state.
Well, when you said about the bee, then I remembered this time, because I feel that question about the mushrooms, I didn't tap into too much, but a time just came back then. I was on the hammock and I'd had some mushrooms and I'm lying there and all mosquitoes coming around me, biting me. I could hear them zzz, trying to meditate, you know. And then I said to them, if you need this blood, then take it. If you don't, then leave it. No, I didn't get bit again.
No way.
And then, but they still heard them. So, you know, in this life, stillness can come from the surrender of what's happening, or acknowledge it and present yourself to it. If this isn't where, if I'm feeling drawn from this to that, then say it, you know. This is, you know, if you need it, then yeah. Or actually, this is not the time for me, to say it and to create that stillness as well as internal. Everything around us wants to bring us out of that stillness zone. I used to feel like, oh, I want to go and live in a cave, you know, and just sit there all my life, meditate, and then do the work. But now it feels like it's gone beyond that, you know.
Yeah.
It's not the time now to sit in caves for all your life. Go to a cave, yeah, meditate there, sit there. The work's now, you know what I mean, day-to-day life, to rise with the sun, go down with it, and in between, to be honest with yourself and see what you've done, see where we're going, see what, you know, how you're affecting yourself, how you're affecting others. If that's constructive, then move on with it, you know. And then, you know, and like you said, you know, you think, oh, I don't need to meditate now because I've done this and this. I'm like that as well, but then also it's like, maybe I'm just telling myself that. So, you know, just keep going with the meditation as well, I'd say.
Yeah.
That stillness. And
one thing that I think, final question, I will start wrapping up, because I'm definitely going to end up sunburnt if we sit here for much longer. But we're talking about, you know, doing the work and doing this, doing that. What if someone is watching and they aren't motivated? I think motivation is something a lot of people, especially in my industry and the people I work with, they kind of sit around and wait for, and it determines whether they take action or not. And motivation is scarce in society. So if someone's not motivated, but they're kind of sat there thinking, maybe behind their mind a little bit deeper, they know they probably should be doing something. Is there any thoughts on that, and maybe advice you could give someone in that position?
Well, we're made up of, you know, in this consuming lifestyle of eating what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat. I feel like, you know, some people claim this and claim that, and there's many possibilities of healing in this life. I feel like now's the time to instigate the power in one another, rather than to, you know, go to somebody and say, you know, I can do this for you, I'm going to heal you, I'm going to motivate you. I feel like, you know, once that power comes from within that person, it's a longer standing power, and there's a basis there, you know. So with support and guidance, you know, we guide each other a little bit to find that spark I talked about, you know. Just reconnect with that spark and then take it from there, you know. This is, you can do this, you can do that, and offer advice. One day it's going to be a fire burning, you know, and then you got to really take care of it, because it can, as much as it can cook your food and keep you warm and get everyone around it, it can also burn everything around it down, you know. So take it real steady as well. If people are struggling to motivate, look at the diet. Look at your diet. Look at what you're consuming, you know, through television or through any of this. Going for a walk, get into nature, you know, take your shoes off. It's really got to come from inside now. In these times, you know, it's we can, you know, some of us are ready to support other people, and I don't even know if it is motivation. It's like, everyone has that decision, and if this is just my vision, like on this earth, if we were all unified, if we all had access to land, to water, to food, you know, and I'm not hurting anybody else, then I feel that's great. I feel if all the people on the planet can be, you know, have good leaders, people who are compassionate, heartfelt people, heartfelt souls who are coming to offer guidance, then I feel this is a good way of life. Other people may feel the good way of life is to be on computer games, or to drink, or to or this or that. So if you're honest with yourself, is the longevity in this, you know? Is this going to bring peace to my life? Is it short-term peace? Is it short-term pleasure? Once that can be acknowledged, I feel like there's no holding it back. That life force energy, once it starts kicking in, you know, the only way is to rise like the sun, and then to sit, you know, to set again and keep going like that. So
brilliant. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Is there anything else you want to mention? I'll make sure Obviously, your contact details are in the description. No doubt, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but if anyone is kind of feeling drawn to you, connected to you, I'm sure you'll welcome messages. Yeah, through social media and things. Same with myself as always. If anyone's sat there and they've got a question burning a hole in the front of the mind and they need to ask, then by all means just message me or Joe and ask it. Anything you want to mention before we wrap it up?
It seems like this life is a gift, you know, and we've all been gifted with it. So it's time now to step up to that power that's within you. Time to cultivate a sustainable way of life. And the truth is, what's possible is beyond imagination. So the unimaginable is possible, and probably more likely possible than what's imaginable. So now is the time like never before. Rainbow prophecy, Condor Eagle prophecy. It's the time now of the unification of the people. So it's time to decide what part you want to play in that. And to feel it, feel into it. Yeah. I win.
I win. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you.